That's
That's
these
a
are
terrible
definitely
view.
teeth.
Can you zoom out a little bit so we can use this as a reaction image? Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Paleontologists Rank the Dinosaur Designs of Jurassic World Evolution 2. In this episode, we're going to take a look at our first theropod that we got on the wheel spin at all, which is insane to me. The only theropod we featured since Velociraptor. Thank God it's not some marine reptile or flying reptile or something that nobody gives a shit about. Welcome to Struthiomimus Park. But before we go there, we all have to introduce ourselves because we worry that we're gaining viewers, which is not reflected in our YouTube metrics at all, but we still presumably will eventually gain another viewer. My name is James Napoli. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences and North Carolina State University, coming to you now from a prison cell somewhere in Utah.
He's in paleontology jail because he didn't like, subscribe, and hit that bell.
All right, I am not in prison. My name is Amelia Zietlu. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City.
My name is Scott Johnston. I am the vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at the Harvard University Museum of Comparative Zoology.
I'm Alex Rubenstall. I'm a PhD candidate at Yale University, and I'm currently recording from my lab because I'm the only person here that takes their job seriously.
I'm Dalton Meyer. I'm also a PhD candidate at Yale University. The only prison that I'm in is one of my own making, and it's dark and dreary.
He's not in the lab. Notice he's in his apartment, which we share.
And you know what's great? The audio quality is much better.
Yeah.
And together,
we're still the skeleton
crew.
Skeleton
Crew.
Woo!
So, Dalton, to start this video off, why don't you show us how Struthiomimus comes into the world?
I would love to. Let's have a look.
Can we not do anything about how bad James is?
No.
James sounds great. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Oh, they're so fast.
There's no better option.
No.
He's in prison. They don't have good Wi-Fi.
That's fair. Pre-zoom.
They zoom.
They do go fast, which is appropriate. What's interesting, James?
They move so fast they can phase through each other.
Right. Well, I was going to say what's interesting about this animal is that it goes fast, and that's interesting because this animal runs fast. That's
very insightful.
That's all there is really to say.
And that's the kind of insight you can expect to get from professional paleontologists at world-class universities, institutions.
Right.
Long leg go fast.
You see how this animal go fast? That's because it went fast.
You can tell it was a runner because of the way it is.
It's a runner, it's a track star.
It's got to go fast. See, that one's
I've also
blue,
made a lot of them.
Thank God you did. I do like their colors.
I didn't
realize that they're more varied. Yeah. Because I gotta say, when I breed Struthiomimus in this game, I'm not usually looking at their color. I'm usually tranquilizing them immediately and shipping them off to the predator enclosure that they're sustaining. Which I guess is a good time for a segue. This is the cheapest animal to breed in the game, right? It's like...
I believe so.
It's like
$5,000. It's like $5,000. It's cheaper than a car. Like, this is a very attainable animal for you to have. So, Alex, what is Struthiomimus?
I'm glad you asked. It's a stupid thing. It's a great Struthiomimus is an ornithomimosaur, which are a group of Coelurosaurian theropods. So those theropods that are a little closer to birds than they are to something like Allosaurus. And they are one of several clades of theropods that appear to lose a lot of their adaptations for macropredation. So they're not taking big prey. They're possibly becoming herbivores, probably omnivorous. And they get real leggy because the only way they can defend themselves is to leg it, with the exception of like the coolest ornithomimosaur, which is not in this game. So
unfortunately,
don't get to talk about it. Yeah, so it's a cool group. I think they're mostly known from North America and Asia. There's some Spanish material in Europe, and there's some material in Africa. So they did have a distribution that suggests that they were all over the place. And currently their fossil record is limited just to the Cretaceous, but we would expect to find them in the Jurassic. Just, interpret that as you will. Yeah, so this is, I'm just going to come out and say it. Of the Ornithomimosaur designs in the game, and there are 3, this is the one I hate the least.
Same.
Yeah.
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 They're not
This
very
one's-
good.
It's mid, but it's not bad.
Doesn't
Yeah.
look terrible.
That was kind of a fun preening animation that would have been great if it wasn't covered in scales.
Well, that's interesting. Dalton, should this have feathers?
Yes, it
What?
should.
Do we know that for sure?
We do.
Okay.
We know it not only
Thank God.
because it's a Silurisaur, and we expect all Silurisaurs to have feathers, but there is evidence of. It's Ornithomimus, correct? That we actually
Yeah.
have the feathered fossil from.
2 specimens of Ornithomimus. A juvenile, too.
That have feathers on the body, and debatably, maybe Alex or someone else can inform us a little bit more about exactly how wingy the arms would have been in terms of those feathers.
I'd be happy to. I've recently... No, yeah. So there's actually, beyond just the arm feathers, one of the specimens of Ornithomimus has been the preserved feathers, which are fairly kind of like filamenty and quill-like, the kind of dino fuzz you think about that's more like hair or a downy feather than it is a flight feather. The pattern of preservation on one of the Ornithomimus specimens is believed by the researchers who describe the specimen to reflect a possible in-life distribution where the feathers are along the back and the body but appear to be absent on the legs as you move down. It's not that scales are present there, it's just that the feathers aren't present. And then on the forearms, so if you've seen more modern paleo art of Ornithomimosaurs, you've probably seen them reconstructed with long, pinaceous feathers. And what that means are the long, plumy feathers that you think of when you see a bird. So this reconstruction is not incorrect, but what is preserved, at least to my knowledge, and I think this is right because I did look at this recently. The only parts of these longer feathers we have preserved on the forearms are the proximal-most part of the rachis. So the rachis is the long shaft that runs down the middle of the feather, and when I say proximal, I mean the part closest to the skin. So we don't really have the whole structure. So sometimes you see them reconstructed more like a flight feather. Sometimes they're reconstructed more like kind of a downy emu feather because it's thought, right, Ornithomimosaurs aren't flying, the proportions are wrong. So is this a display structure? And it's important because it's the earliest clade that we might have earliest branching clade of theropods on the way to birds where we might have pinaceous feathers. So like, why are they evolving? Display? Maybe. Be cool to have more than just the attachment bits, but yeah, so
Right.
they should be very feathery.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they'd
So
look
it's another
cooler if they were.
Yeah, it would look great. So one fun note about Struthiomimus, and this is something that even I, a taxonomy pedant, can't really understand. You mentioned Ornithomimus a lot,
I did.
and we have no idea really. So, okay, there are basically 2 ornithomimids in North America that you hear things about. There's Ornithomimus, which named the group, and there's Struthiomimus, which was also very common. Both of them were discovered in the late 1800s to early 1900s. There's been this tortured history of the taxonomy and which specimens go to which species. Sometimes we name new genera, so you may have heard of Dromaeosaurus. Sometimes we've split a couple of them out to new things like Rhodophodes, which is a great name.
Now,
The end result here is that there's not most of the ornithomimid fossil record are metatarsals.
Also, how the hell did you just pronounce Dromaeosaurus?
Dromaeosaurus. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't think it's valid anyway. So, yeah, sorry. It might be. When I say I don't
Sorry,
think it's valid,
Dromaeosaurus fans.
when I say
I
I don't
mean-
know if it's valid, I'm not saying I think it's not. I'm saying I have no idea if it is, and I do not have
think
time
it,
to
it
check right
jumps
now.
around in Ornithomimus a lot. but I also
Yeah.
don't know.
This is a common problem in the small dinosaur fauna of the Dinosaur Park formation that Struthiomimus is from, which is that theropods that are relatively small, so like Ornithomimosaurs on down, seem to have like catastrophically detonated when they died, scattering fragments of their bodies from miles in every direction, with the only things large enough to survive the impact being their metatarsals. Alternatively, the other thing that can happen is that the entire skeleton is preserved perfectly with like soft tissue traces. There are two extremes. You do not find like half ornithomimid skeletons.
And we do have gorgeous ornithomimids.
Yeah.
Now right, and we have a couple really, really pretty ones. So the metatarsal bones are the really long bones of the dinosaur ankle. So you may have heard people say that ostriches or other birds or dogs and cats have backwards pointing knee joints. It's a pretty common mistake that's made. That's not true. Knees always point forward because of the way evolution, homology, and the laws of physics work. The knee joint in this animal is right at the bottom of its body, right there, being circled by Dalton's cursor. Backwards, that's the knee. The backwards pointing joint is actually their ankle. These animals are walking like they're walking on the balls of their feet, or if you prefer, they're walking on tiptoes. This is what's known in comparative anatomy as a digitigrade stance, which means they're only walking on the toe bones, not on the bones of the metatarsals, which form the arch of your foot.
It's probably worth pointing out that that's what almost every animal does too.
Yeah,
most animals do it. Well, no, not really. So, I mean, primitively, the general condition for tetrapods is to walk on the whole foot. But a lot of groups of animals have lifted the ankle off the ground. That's a generally accepted adaptation for fast running, because by moving the ankle off the ground, you're lengthening the end of the limb, which means that for a given mass of the limb, you can move it further with each step, which is essentially how you move faster. You take fewer steps and go a greater distance with each step you travel.
I can go the distance.
Dinosaurs are all digitigrade. Even the large sauropods retain that posture, even though the metatarsals are very short. They inherited this from their last common ancestor, which was a very small, fast-running animal. What's unique about ornithomimosaurs is that their metatarsals are really long in relation to their tibia and fibula. They have the greatest consistent degree of cursorial adaptation, which is adaptation for fast running, of any dinosaur group, with the only one matching them in their environment actually being tyrannosaurs, juvenile tyrannosaurs in particular. Yes, Alan? What? Silurus. Right. Now, but wait, how does Silurus have any relevance to this?
It's metatarsal compared to its tibia length.
That's true, right. So coelurids in the Jurassic also have very long metatarsals. And, well, alvarezsaurs are also very long, and
yeah.
noasaurs as well, right?
Yeah, some of the weird leggy ones. Take that run.
Yeah.
Right. So we're discovering more leggy, runny animals, but ornithomimosaurs were the first leggy, runny dinosaurs that were discovered, and that's pretty cool. In fact, their fossil record is, again, mostly just their metatarsal bones. So we know a lot about specifically those 3 bones in their body, and the rest of them is often a mystery.
They've been
or very well preserved.
For a while, too, like at least 100 years in the fossil record, and it's pretty funny, like reading some of the old descriptions of paleontologists bending over backwards to be like, yeah, they look like birds. There's a lot of stuff they're doing that's a lot like birds, but...
Yeah, the other thing that's kind of wild...
Wishbone.
The wild thing is that, like, we knew about these for hundreds of years, but it took finding Deinonychus to inspire, like, the, like, oh, dinosaurs are active, like... Which I know a lot of that emerged in, like, the 50s and, like, wasn't necessarily at the onset of paleontology. But just the fact that we've known about these for that whole time, when you're like, oh yeah, dinosaurs were all slow, lumbering ectotherms. Just don't talk about ornithomimosaurs.
It's discussed, I think, in... Is that Osborne who does the Velociraptor Ornitholestes Ornithomimus paper, or was that Brandt?
It's Ornitholestes, Ornithomimus, and Tyrannosaurus.
But that is Osborne, right? It's like floated that, you know, Ornithomimosaurs and Ornitholestes might have been active predators. That's all.
Yeah. No, it was discussed a lot early on. I mean, Ornithomimus was named by Marsh.
it is like an unfortunate. It's because they got so close. Because like Owen in his original description was like, these things might be like mammally.
Immediately, and then with Archaeopteryx, they were like, "Oh look, an active bird-like group of reptiles that's probably transitional." And then
everyone was like, "But Dolo's lost."
Well, Huxley was like, "Hey, these things, dinosaurs and birds, are close relatives to one another."
Yeah, it's really just incredible to go back. Maybe we should do a video about how we figured out that birds were dinosaurs and why we should have figured it out like a century prior.
Well, we did, and then some idiot was like, "They don't have wishbones."
Right. And then Barnum Brown presumably like nearly tripped over that beautiful Sornitholestes in Dinosaur Provincial Park and didn't find
the
it.
whole thing.
Right. Immediately. So as Alex was saying earlier, several groups of theropod dinosaurs lose a lot of the adaptations that they have that are associated with taking down large prey. And ornithomimosaurs are one of those groups, which you might guess from the fact that Alex mentioned this point about theropod evolution in a video about an ornithomimosaur. So let's get in close to their heads here, because there's one particular adaptation that I think is worth noting.
Right, and that is that the real animals did not have teeth. The early relatives of ornithomimosaurs did have teeth, and these ones lost them, except Jurassic World didn't get that memo, and they gave them teeth.
So there's one thing that I like about this, which is that the teeth are not only present when they shouldn't be, but they're completely fucked up.
Yeah, what is going on with these?
It looks like a child drew them like with a pen just in one stroke, just like that.
They're
Like
really
when I used to
horrible.
draw dinosaurs.
Wait, hold on. Are they made? Could they be making the bold statement that these aren't teeth and these are like bird tomia? Like
don't
it's
think
a
so.
serrated beak.
No, it's not. You can see the edge of the beak, can't you?
You can see gum tissue.
Ooh, I hate seeing gum tissue.
But here's the thing, the way that the model is colored, like that's a beak texture. That's not
Yes.
scales. So they're
Yes.
giving it a beak and teeth.
Yeah.
Right. Which some birds had, but these certainly
Bye.
didn't. Yeah.
I
He's
don't
embarrassed.
more
We made
better
him
view.
self-conscious.
I could almost convince myself that they're giving them right. So like, living birds don't have teeth, but some of them have these ridges, often keratinous, or these kind of like toothy projections that are called tomia, which are used to hold things. But I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them a lot of.
What the horrifying geese have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're giving them a lot of credit. Those are
All right.
clearly supposed to be teeth. There was a Nature paper about the beak design of these because there's soft tissue preservation of one of the Tyrrell specimens, where they actually showed that not only did it have a beak, but it had kind of the soft tissue stuff that ducks have. Which is, yeah, right. Like they don't eat like emus or ostriches. They like the argument made in that was that they were actually like maybe even semi-aquatic or eating at the shoreline.
Well,
Like-
that's
They love
been
walking into this lake.
that's been the interpretation.
Walking in lake.
You're telling me that this dinosaur that's adapted to eat food in shallow water has long legs and a long neck and is actually adapted to do that?
Well, we don't know if it is, but
There is some debate about the interpretation of that, but yes, I am telling you that.
I'm just being
No, I know.
sarcastic. But like
Oh, our viewers know what you're being sarcastic about.
they're in the know. They're cool guys.
Yeah,
That's
that's
these
a
are
terrible
definitely
view.
teeth.
Can you zoom out a little bit so we can use this as a reaction image? Yeah, so those are teeth. That ain't no
Shouldn't have
tomia. It should not have teeth. It should especially not have like shark teeth.
Yeah.
Those aren't even theropod teeth. They're not the little. So like basal
Shark
ornithomimosaurs
teeth.
have really like, they've got a lot of teeth. They've got like peggy teeth, right, Alex?
Yes, little peggy teeth, and
Yeah.
a lot. Like Peleoneolitic is got a lot of teeth.
Well, right, and Peleoneolitic species name is Polyodon, which means a lot of
Many
teeth.
Many teeth.
Yeah. So this is a this model is not that good.
But
It's
I do
not
like that
aggressively terrible.
the manual unguals, so the claws on the hands do appear to be straight, which is a feature of ornithomimosaurs. I
That's true.
can't tell about the feet, but
Yeah, the feet. So that's another cursorial adaptation, right? Is you get like a less kind of hooked, grabby foot claw, and you
Mhm.
specialize it into something that's better for running. That
Yeah, those are
reaches
pretty
its
straight.
maximum.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Right, and that foot
And are
development
they
thing
all the
reaches
same length?
maximum
That,
hooked
another
animals.
that's kind of like Another feature of the clade are that the fingers are all pretty much the same length.
The fingers or the claws?
Both?
Oh,
Yeah,
Well,
they become very uniform
kind
and
of.
symmetrical.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
hands, good. Head, not so much.
And its torso is a little strange. It's a little too deep and it's a little too short. Than
Yeah,
it
it's built
should
like a
be.
boat.
Another one of the things I actually do really like about this model is I love its social animation. And I know that
Yeah.
that's kind of a common thing that we say for a lot of these, because a lot of their social animations are pretty great. But specifically, right on cue. They heard me talking about it.
That's very cute.
I love it because that's just what emus do when they're excited. And they just kind of mapped this behavior of a very similar looking modern animal onto a dinosaur. And it works fantastically. It's adorable and wonderful. And it makes me smile every time I see their big, weird, excited
Yeah.
kickies.
I mean, in an academic sense, they are basically just ratites. Like, they are emus.
With long tails.
Yeah.
And more stupid.
Yeah.
And more stupid.
And that's saying a
And
lot.
yeah, you
'Cause-
people may have seen ratites behave before. And they don't behave like animals with more than 3 brain cells.
Is it-
These
well-
maybe had half.
Well, there's
I
that
think
thing of...
cassowaries have 5, but each one is devoted to
I
hate.
hate. Yeah.
Right. They're devoted only to the idea of if I've chased a 13-year-old boy through the brush and it falls down, do I kick him in the throat so he bleeds to death before help gets there? This story based on the only documented human fatality from a cassowary.
Have you guys seen the warning signs on Australian beaches for cassowaries?
Yeah.
Where they have like guns and stuff, and they're the funniest little cartoons of just horrible animals. You were also saying earlier about how dumb ratites can be. I'll need to check to see if it is apocryphal. Oh, it's so great. I'll check to see if it is apocryphal, but I've seen a couple videos and heard many stories of if you lay on your back in the outback and just bicycle your feet up in the air, you will attract every emu that can see you because they think that you're an emu. They got stuck on its back and they want to see what's happening.
Yeah.
I've seen
we give,
lots of videos of that.
yeah. We give a lot of lip service to the idea that birds are intelligent animals. And some birds are. But primitive birds like ratites are really not.
They're not primitive, idiot.
Oh, you know what I mean. Yes, I have a basic cursory understanding of phylogenetic systematics, Alex. So, in the spirit of animal violence, our group chat's name is related to the 4th campaign mission in this game that we were all playing around the same time when Jurassic World Evolution 2 was first out and we were first hyperfixated upon it. Those of you who played this game may recall that the mission tasks you to build a zoo in the high mountains that is only stocked by predatory dinosaurs. One might call it predatory dinosaurs of the world. And the challenge imposes some limitations. One is that there are really not any high-ranking herbivores that you can put in your zoo. The second, and maybe the more important, is that you can't have a feeder until you reach 3 stars in popularity. What does this mean? What this means is that you breed approximately 350 Struthiomimuses. Thank God the game numbers so you don't have to count how many you've released to die. And you transport them around your park and feed the predators Struthiomimuses. What's fun is that the rate at which you can output Struthiomimus means you are basically constantly micromanaging the Struthiomimus feeding. It is the single worst thing that we've ever encountered. Oh God.
Let's see if they can actually outrun it.
It is using its appropriate defensive toolkit.
Oh, it did!
Oh my God.
Is this going to be the first successful herbivore defense that we've shown, and it's just them running fastly away?
No, the
And this is
Triceratops
kinda
and the
sad.
Hwyangosaurus held their
Okay.
own.
You're thinking of Qiupalong, which I still think of a lot because that was maybe the most disappointing shit we've ever seen.
And Styracosaurus.
Oh, Dinosaur Park, don't fight back.
Just runs away. The other
Well,
horrible part about that mission is that there are some of like the smaller carnivores that don't like hunt, like Compsognathus, and I think Carrarasaurus maybe. And like you have to feed them like the meat platter as opposed to the goats. And because you have the meat platter, they won't hunt the Struthiomimuses, so you have to put them in and then tranquilize them so that they'll come up and eat the sleeping Struthiomimuses.
Yes. It's not the Herrerasaurus, it's the Deinonychus specifically.
Right.
Because I remember that. Because I remember they always had these big, like plunges in their happiness whenever the Struthiomimus carcass in their environment rotted and they couldn't eat it anymore, and they just had living Struthiomimus, and they all got really upset, and then they would kill one and be happy again.
It's honestly one of the most deranged missions I've ever played in a video game. I like that they don't tell you what you have to do. There's an implication of what must be done. They're just like,
Yeah.
have
No
many
feeders.
theropods, no feeders, figure out a solution.
Oh, that was wild.
Oh,
He threw him. That was pretty cool. Yeah, dead
Thank
dinosaur,
God.
no way. Should we go check these out in the species viewer?
I think
Absolutely.
we should.
Give him a, I think what
It's
James is saying
Struthiomimus,
Scott,
make it
is-
run.
Might look a little ridiculous. Oh, not too bad.
Nice. It looks like he's having a fun time.
I like the camera shake it adds.
Yeah, I wish that I could turn that off, frankly, but
Even though I dislike even though the posture of the tail is inaccurate, I guess, probably, I really like how it holds its tail when it runs. It reminds me of kind of a white-tailed deer flagging.
You know, I've actually heard some suggestions too that dinosaurs may have tucked their tails up a little bit as they ran. They have the mobility to do it, and you've got a tremendous amount of rotational inertia if you've got a huge tail going out backward, which would mean you just can't really turn when you're running. So there is an idea. I think Phil Curry's talked about this a little bit, just like in a like this is unprovable, but they probably would have done this because the laws of physics applied to them, kind of thing.
yeah. This to me doesn't look like this. To me looks semi-natural. What I hate is this like the bucking spine where it just like implodes upon itself every step it takes.
It's getting its back
Considered
blown
that
out.
dinosaurs
Oh.
might just be weird, though.
Oh my god.
I think this is a consequence purely of probably the way this thing is like rigged and modeled, and not any statement about the animal that any artist, designer, developer is trying to make. I think this is just an unfortunate consequence of computers functioning the way they do. But it's
Yeah, it's got to be a rigging error, but it don't look good.
Oh no.
I'll start by giving it a rank. This is a C tier design for me.
Okay.
It's not aggressively awful, but I can't say I enjoy looking at it to any degree. Yeah, just C tier. It's the most basic dinosaur in the game. It's literally the cheap one. You can buy a used car for more money than this.
I'm having a hard time with it because I don't really hate it. And I think at a glance, like, it doesn't bother me. It looks exactly like how it's supposed to look. Like, yeah, if you zoom in 1,000 times, it's got teeth and they're wrong. But other than that, like, yeah, that's what Struthiomimus looked like. And the colors are nice, and I like the kicks when it jumps, so I'll give it a B.
I'm gonna paraphrase what Alex said a whole lot earlier, in that this is the least bad Ornithomimosaur. I think it's boring. I do like its colors. I like its sound design, actually. That's something we didn't talk about. I really like the noises it makes. It's pretty unique in terms of dinosaurs. I don't hear many dinosaurs kind of making those kind of like warbling, chattering noises often, and I like that. I like its little excited kickies and all that. But overall, like, it's got too many things about it that I just think are meh at best, and it is a solid C tier for me.
All right. Like I said at the beginning, it's my favorite of the Ornithomimosaurs, but it's a C.
yeah. my vote won't outweigh this at this point. I was gonna give it a B, just solely because it's the best of the bad ornithomimosaurs. And like Amelia said, like looking at it from far away, like feathers notwithstanding, and that's an issue of all or almost all now of the feathered theropods. It's the one that evokes ornithomimosaur the most to me, like as I look at it. But yeah, I'll give it a B, but it shakes out to a C anyway.
How many Bs did we give it?
2 Bs, 3 Cs.
I want to change mine to a B.
What?
Did I sway you?
Dalton's point that like it evokes the feeling it's supposed to. Like when I see it, I see an enormously stupid bird, and that's what ornithomimosaurs were. Enormously stupid bird. Like it is the lowest B I could give it, but it does eke out that I think solely based on vibes.
V for
Well,
vibe.
The B's have it.
B for Bime.
Joe vibin. Yeah.
And so I guess it'll be a B tier along with Triceratops.
Put it at the far end though.
It's as far on the end as it can be in a list of 2.
Oh, there are only 2 Bs.
Yeah, it's Triceratops and Struthiomimus at the moment.
Okay.
All right, fine.
So it is above Hwyangosaurus, Diplodocus, and Jurassic World Velociraptor.
Are you guys ready to
to-
spin that wheel?
I'm ready.
Let's spin that wheel.
Whoa! What's it gonna be? What's it gonna? Oh,
Oh.
okay.
Oh, a cool one.
Oh.
Chongjusaurus!
Right.
How'd you say that, Scott?
Chongjusaurus?
I think it's Chinjiaosaurus.
Chinjiaosaurus?
Chinjiaosaurus.
Chinjiaosaurus. Ah, I'm illiterate, remember?
You don't speak Chinese?
I can't read.
Anyway.
Don't speak.
I
Well,
do
regardless
speak.
of whether Scott can read it, next week we'll be featuring our first tyrannosaurid dinosaur and one of my personal favorite dinosaurs in the game and in real life, Chinjiaosaurus. So remember, before you close the tab, remember to hit that bell and hit that like button because we critically need your support. You need to help us.
I don't know.
So
That's true.
like, subscribe, and come back next week for Chinjiaosaurus. Cheers, y'all.
God, that's just an animal there's no brain. Nobody's home.
No.
Single brain cell freaking ping-ponging around
Oh,
inside its head like the DVD
whoa.
logo.
Oh, Struthiomimus.